Hello and welcome. This is Tigrai Television English Program Service coming to you live from Magala. I'm Alam Tejan with today's news. Here are the details. On Tuesday, 10 political parties in Ethiopia formed a caucus to initiate all-inclusive political dialogue that they say is an answer to the multifaceted crisis in Ethiopia. The parties stated that basically diverged from the Ethiopian government-sponsored national dialogue and criticized that exclusionary measures will not bring a real solution to the serious problems in the country. The newly formed caucuses includes Oromo Liberation Front, Oromo Federalist Congress, Afar People's Party, Afar Justice and Democratic Party, Ogaden National Liberation Front, and 5 others. It's been more than 70 days now since humanitarian truce was declared by Ethiopian government to allow into Tigray. However, it has not been able to change much in the crisis on the ground, in which over 6.5 million people still remain in dire need of humanitarian assistance. The Emergency Coordination Center in Tigray has announced that so far only 14 to 15% of the much-needed aid has reached Tigray. Our reporter Winta Kidana has the details.
For the past 11 months, Tigray has been in an all-encompassing siege imposed by the Ethiopian government, leaving millions on the brink. Despite the declaration of a humanitarian truce in late March, little has been done to ensure food security across the region. Although some improvement on the delivery of humanitarian assistance has been witnessed in the past few weeks, Gabriel Aregawi, head for the Emergency Coordination Center in Tigray, says the amount of aid that has reached Tigray in the past 70 days is only 14 to 15% of what is required on the ground.
$115 food trucks per day, or 3,000 per week, were supposed to enter Tigray in order to provide for 322,000 people in a week. But only 1,260 trucks have arrived so far. Of this, around 25 to 30% carry non-food items like spoon, ladle, pot, and other garments. This doesn't mean that the people do not need them, but food items should be prioritized. They basically have to survive first, and they need food for that. Within the past 70 days, about 46,000 metric tons of aid has reached Tigray, and this is about 14 to 15% of what is expected.
The aid says the lack of fuel remains to be the main hindrance to the distribution of the humanitarian aid to the community in need, as the Ethiopian government continues to deliberately deny fuel-carrying trucks from reaching Tigray.
For the past 10 days, the Ethiopian government has refused to allow the entrance of fuel. Because of that, we are unable to distribute aid to the community in different districts in Tigray. 45 to 50% of the aid we received is stocked up in stores because we don't have any fuel to distribute it. The federal government is returning fuel-carrying trucks by denying them clearance to enter Tigray.
Gabriel also says that the supplementary foods which were sent to support malnourished children and mothers have been blocked at checkpoints by the Ethiopian government.
The entrance of supplementary food like biscuit is completely obstructed by the federal government. They have denied access to fuel and such items, even though partner organizations have been constantly requesting for solutions.
There are currently more than 6.5 million people in Tigray in dire need of humanitarian assistance, of which over 1 million live in famine-like conditions.
Patients with chronic illness in Tigray have been the most affected by the ongoing siege, as it has made it difficult for them to access life-saving medications. Our reporter Aregawi Garamkael spoke with members of Nur Salam, an association for more than 300 HIV-positive patients in Tigray, in which they tell us about the impact of the siege on the members of the association. Let's take a look.
Nur Salam is an association for HIV-positive patients in Tigray. The association was founded in 2009 and has more than 300 members. Abdulwas Ahmed, a founder and chairman of the association, says Nur Salam had previously been working with different local and international organizations that provided them with financial and material supports. However, says the chairman, the association is currently in a dire situation as no budget has been allocated to them since the start of the war on Tigray in November of 2020.
We used to work in collaboration with Tigray Bureau of Health. and other local associations in Tigray. We also used to get financial and material support from them. Currently, we don't have any budget. The aid we used to get from the Global Fund has been terminated by the federal government 2 years ago. The local NGOs themselves are facing a lot of problems at the moment as well.
According to Abdul Wasi, members of the association find themselves in an unbearable condition as they are unable to access medical care.
Currently, our main problem is the issue of medicine. For example, I had been forced to discontinue my medication for about 2 weeks as I couldn't find it in the health center nearby. Our members are suffering from lack of food and medicine due to ongoing siege that has blocked the delivery of food and medical supplies.
The chairman also adds that the lack of medical supplies had forced members of the association, including himself, to switch medications, further deteriorating their health condition.
I used to take medication called 1J, but I was forced to switch to another one called 1A. The medication that I am currently using is causing me a lot of problems. It has made it difficult for me to walk as it hurts my hips and my legs.
Abdul Wasi also calls to the international community and concerned bodies to help alleviate the suffering of HIV-positive patients in Tigray.
Our association is found in dire situation and our members are suffering from lack of food and medicine. I call on any concerned body for help as we are in a very devastating condition.
The almost 1 year-long siege on Tigray that has blocked all essential items, including food and medical supplies, has placed millions in a dire situation while forcing higher institutions such as hospitals to cease operations. Tigray General Hospital has recently reported that the hospital is forced to close its doors to its patients due to lack of medical supplies. Saron Tigrai reports.
Adigrat General Hospital, a hospital in Adigrat, a town about 120 kilometers from Mekelle, has been serving local residents as well as patients from neighboring areas, including Afar and Eritrea, following the 11 months long siege that has prevented the entry of essential items such as medical supplies. The hospital has been forced to cease operations. Dr. Atakhal Tisiyum, medical director of the hospital, says that patients are being forced to leave the hospital without receiving the appropriate medical care.
A year has passed since the siege has been imposed. As a result, the problems that we are facing keep on getting worse. We were working above the standards before the war. Now, there isn't even a word to describe the standard of the service we are giving. We are at a point where we cannot give service to our patients. They come here but they don't get any kind of medicine or treatment.
Patients, on their part, say that the hospital has reached a level where it has nothing to offer them, as it has failed to give them life-saving treatment.
I need my medication. I can't go without it. I came here with the help of others. There has been a week since I was told that there is no medication and I'm waiting on my desk.
Are we going to keep on living like this? Patients cry as they hear there is no medication to relieve their pain. This is heartbreaking.
Chief Executive Officer of the hospital, Abarash Fissaha, says that the primary hospitals in the area have all been out of service as they were looted and destroyed by the invading Ethiopian and Eritrean forces, leading to the overcrowding of the hospital.
Around 5 primary hospitals in our area have been made totally out of service as they were destroyed by the Allied forces. Our hospital is now almost out of service due to lack of supplies. As a human being, watching another human die in agony due to lack of medicine is excruciating.
The patients and medical professionals say the world is doing little to nothing to help avert the health catastrophe in Tigray. They say that the international community needs to take a decisive action to stop the deaths of millions.
I don't think the international community is paying attention to our sufferings. They need to put their words into action, otherwise it's going to be too late. We have already lost hundreds of thousands, but if action isn't taken now, we're going to lose hundreds of thousands more.
Is it because of our identity that we are being treated in such a way? Similar situations in other continents are being treated differently. Why can't ours be seen like that? Why can't Tigray be seen as equal as them? It's really sad.
Violence against civilian Tigrayans has started long before November 4th, 2020, when Ethiopia formally declared war on Tigray. We spoke with one former resident of the Amhara region who was displaced from her home in Azosa, Gondar by a Fano vigilante group. She tells us about the gruesome attack that forced her to leave her home and seek shelter in Magala. Haile Gabriel has the details.
Frehot Take is a resident of Magala. She used to live in Gondar in the Amhara region and used to work for a private company that imported goods. Frehot says she had been able to give her family a relatively stable life until she was arbitrarily detained for her Tigrayan identity by a Fano vigilante group by the end of 2016.
I used to live in Gondar, as a sub-city in the Amhara region before September of 2016. Some members of Fano came to my house and beat me using steel and knives till my uterus came out. Then they dumped me into a nearby drainage, and I stayed there for over 2 days. They have also taken all my belongings in a broad daylight, though I was begging them to leave me alone, saying that I am Ethiopian too. They gave me a deaf ear. One among the perpetrators said that we will continue to rip your skin till we remove the wayane out of you.
Frehot says that this has injured her terribly, that she has sustained bone fractures, an eye condition and other health complications.
I am now in a very difficult situation. I have sustained bone fracture and I can't see properly if I don't get my medication. I cannot smell things, as my nose has malfunctioned. Additionally, I find it very hard to hear things, as it is very painful. I am also suffering from gland, TB, allergies, and nerve problems. I couldn't get any medication so far.
Frehot also remembers another story from the town of Gondar. Forces committed their horrific acts on other Tigrayans there. Frehot is among many Tigrayans that were targets of a deliberate and systematic attack.
There was a Tigrayan expectant mother named Amina. While she was heading to the nearby hospital to deliver, members of Fano came and stopped the ambulance. Then they dragged the woman out of the ambulance and cut her stomach open. After that, they burned the ambulance.
The war on Tigray has led to the loss of thousands of lives and the displacement of millions. Those displaced as a result of the gruesome atrocities committed by allied Ethiopian and Eritrean forces now find themselves in a desperate situation due to the Ethiopian government's blockade on essential goods, including food and medical supplies. Our reporter spoke with IDPs sheltered in the town of Adwa who speak about the horrible conditions of the IDP center. For more, Selomi Tigrai reports.
This IDP camp in Adwa shelters thousands displaced from western Tigray following the violent ethnic cleansing campaign targeting the majority Tigrayan population living in the area. Many here say they were forced to leave their homes after Ethiopian forces started to attack them and their livelihoods.
The things they did, they're beyond what can be comprehended. I would never think that a human being could be capable of doing such a thing. There were dead bodies over dead bodies. We had our neighbors with us who were attempting to escape, and they would just drag them and put them into Takaza River. They would take innocent people, chop them into pieces, and put them into Takaza River. They would force the mothers to watch as they killed their children and then rape them.
While many of these IDPs have escaped from the grips of an enemy that has destroyed their home and threatened to take their lives, many still find themselves in horrifying circumstances, unable to access food or essential medical supplies.
It's a miracle that we're still alive. All people get here for a meal is water. We boil the water to make sure it's not carrying any infectious diseases. I have breastfed for as long as 4 years with my other child, but there's nothing now. What am I going to feed my child? Mothers are in terrible situation. Many have been forced to stay in bed because they're so hungry. Sometimes we think they're asleep, but later figure out that they're actually dead. Then we go bury them and mourn their deaths. This is all we can do. This is our life.
There is no medication or food. People are suffering from many illnesses and dying. Many are dying of hunger. I counted 7 children here in this camp that have died because they had nothing to eat.
You can see these children here. Look at their head. This is because of the lack of food and sanitation.
Kasahan Gabriel, mayor of the town of Adwa, on his part calls on the international community and all concerned bodies to help save the lives of the more than 127,000 IDPs sheltered in Adwa.
بسرو أوزي أريخا تخرت كجبر لزجبا بسرت عالمس نوزي كري الله.
The world should pay attention to the suffering here in Tigray. People are dying. Many from Western Tigray have come here to Adwa. They are sheltered here, but aid has not reached them. If the international community cannot push for the entry of food and other supplies, these people will not be able to make it another day.
Tigray is home to more than 2